Hello, welcome to the Nintendo Bros podcast. This is Pete,
And this is Derek.
and like normal, we're two brothers that talk about video games, right?
Yes, I'm glad we have to say that every time.
Every time, because you never know when it's someone's first time. Funny thing, Derek, we actually do have some new listeners. Our subscriber count went up on YouTube, and our views on Anchor are doing well.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay,
So
awesome.
someone out there is listening, and if it's you, if you're the one listening to us, leave us a comment, leave us a note, leave us a question. Let us know you're out there. It'll not only will we answer your question, but it'll motivate us to know that you're there.
Yeah, to know that someone real is on the other end.
Yeah, it's not. Just watch it be a bunch of bots.
Yeah.
Prove that you're not a bot. Well, Derek, it's a very exciting week at Nintendo Bros Podcast. Do you know
Is
why?
it?
Yeah, do you know why?
No, because there's not a lot of news.
Well, there's a mega announcement dropped out of nowhere last week for the Nintendo Switch. And that is that finally, fans have been asking this for years. Do you know what it is, Derek?
Is this the groups and folders thing?
Yes, we finally got groups and folders on Switch. I mean, it's more just groups. It's not really folders yet.
I thought wasn't this 2 weeks ago? I could have sworn we already talked about this.
No, I know.
Oh.
It's because the moment it happened, I messaged you.
Oh, okay. But I heard it wasn't actually very good.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. When you turn your Switch on, I've set it up now. When you turn your Switch on, it's not in the main screen. You still have to go to more games on the side. And then you have to, click the L button to open your groups. So it's not like the Wii was or the DS where, you go to your home screen and immediately you see all your folders laid out beautifully. No. So, I don't know. Baby steps, right?
Yeah, one thing at a time, I guess. But it's better than nothing. I just don't see myself using it.
Well, I have enough games now where it did kind of make sense for me to do that. I set up 9 groups. I have currently playing multiplayer. I put classics. I put Nintendo first party. I put experiential. I put meh, RPGs, shooters, and then I put my top 10 on Switch.
What if they're in two different things?
They're in two different things. Like Mario Kart's in a few categories, right?
You can put them in multiple ones?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
So yeah, I think what's nice about it is I put all the 4-player game or 3 or 4-player games in multiplayer. So it'll just be easier now rather than because sometimes someone will come over and I'll be like, oh, I have this game and this game for multiplayer. It'll completely forget about something else. So now I can just be like, no, here is all of them. Or if someone wants to come over and see what I have, it might just be easy to be like, well, look at these groups. Like maybe you'll want to play a classic or a shooter.
Yeah,
but it's still
what are your classic games?
The classics are the Nintendo, Super Nintendo Classic,
Online,
N64
right?
Classic, and then a few of the old classic games I have, like N64 games, like Pod Racer, Star Wars Pod Racer, and Turok.
Yeah.
So anything that's kind of older than GameCube, I put in classics.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of exciting. Maybe one day we'll get folders. I don't think we will, but I think this is it.
I mean, it's not the worst thing. It's better than nothing. I rarely ever scroll all the way to the right, but I like your multiplayer idea, where just to have a quick glance, for my friends. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I'm not really someone who cares about the user interface of a console. It should really just be functional. And I find the Switch has been perfectly functional. So,
Yeah.
I don't usually think back on systems and think, wow, that had a really great user interface.
No, as long as it's not crashing every hour, I'm fine.
Or like the Wii U, where it's incredibly slow.
Yeah.
Although I do, speaking of user interfaces, before we talk about games, the 3DS really did have a great user interface. You could have put themes, it had folders from the beginning. If you open my 3DS, you're going to be impressed. So, yeah. Anyways, let's move on. No one cares about groups. So, a big game released for the Nintendo Switch 2 days ago.
Oh yeah, Kirby, right?
Kirby and the Forgotten Land. And so
have you beaten it yet?
I haven't beaten it yet. I'm just entering the 4th world. And I believe there's 8. There's 6 main ones, a 7th boss one, and then an 8th special one. But there's over 30 games in this series. and it's finally moved to becoming a 3D game. So that's one of the main. I mean, I don't usually buy or get excited about Kirby games. I usually buy one every decade. But this one just caught my interest the moment the trailer started dropping because it's a 3D action platformer, and those are so rare that I almost they always kind of catch my eye if it's a 3D action platformer. Like it's just rare, right?
How many levels are there in a world?
Well, there's like because it's broken into main stages, and then they have kind of side stages, right? So there's about
I played the demo. The demo represents how many levels of a world.
so that's like 3 out of a world is usually like 4 or 5 levels and then a boss from my memory. I think it's four levels and a boss, so 5.
So it's like half a world.
Yeah, you got like half a world, but there's also the special challenges, right? Which there's like 5 per world, so there's even more of those, and those are like harder kind of Mario Galaxy style, quick challenges.
Okay. Yep.
And on top of that, there's like the town, and the town is full of mini games, and it's kind of full of these small unlockables, and it's also got this Coliseum mode, which is like a boss rush mode that I opened up, which isn't just a boss rush mode. It's actually much more in depth. Like there's different cups. So I just finished the first cup, which you do go through and fight bosses. I mean, this might be a spoiler. I don't know. It's Kirby. Anyways, I don't want to spoil anything, but basically the Coliseum mode is much denser than you might think, and same with the upgrades. Okay. So yeah, it's gotten really good reviews so far. It's got an 84 on Metacritic.
Do you find that the review scores are justified? Like,
yes,
you find it? Okay.
Absolutely. I think that 84, 85 is like right where it should be. It's hard because I'm loving it, by the way. Like, it's really, really good. As of now, I mean, it's going to be on my Game of the Year list. I've only played a few games this year, but it's the one to beat now to get on my list. It's easy, but it's also really engaging in that, like, the environments, they're very detailed, and, like, as you platform through the level, like, you're shooting down a water pipe and going through like a water pipe system in one level. In another level, you're exploring like an abandoned mall. And it is very much like 3D World, where it's mostly linear. There's oftentimes like hidden pathways and hidden rooms. But it's just a kind of delightful to play because you never really get stressed out, but you also never get bored. And to me, the biggest factor is just seeing every environment. It's not a boring standard environment. Every level has its own kind of environmental gimmick, whether or not it's a theme park with the roller coaster, or it's the haunted house in the theme park, or it's like I said, the water pipes, or you're climbing a tower in the middle of the water area. Like there's just a lot of variety. So I really, what did you think of the demo?
Yeah, I was going to say, so I played the demo yesterday, and I did like it. Like, it's pretty fun. I had nothing against it. But, I did have small gripes. I did find the frame rate, especially in the distance, it was like, 10 frames per second.
So, yeah, enemies their frame rates drop if they're in the distance. That's right.
Yeah, and the whole game is 30 frames, which is a game that simple. I think the Switch could have done better. It is kind of linear, and it does feel a little bit, at least from the 2 levels I did, I'm sure it gets a bit better. But if you compare it to Mario 3D World, that game has a lot kind of more to it and better secrets. Where I found this game was very like, you just walk on a path, suck up something. Like, it is very simple. It is joyful, and I loved the music as I played. But I don't know if I'll ever get it, just because I think I'd get it and then kind of play it for the sake of playing it and not really enjoy it. I also heard there weren't a lot of abilities. Like, there's only 10 or so to actually suck up
there's
and use.
12, but they all have two upgrades, so there's like 36.
Yeah, but I tried the upgrades, and like, they're basically the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it is that with the mouthful mode, adding like unique upgrades all over the place, I don't really think about it that much. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I gotta say, the demo, I played the demo and kind of had a similar feeling. For one, I literally went from Elden Ring to Kirby. So it was weird going from like a 4K 45 frames a second to 30 frames. But now I don't even really I don't even see it anymore. You know that kind of thing with 30 frames.
Yeah.
And it's not like the style of gameplay really needs 60 frames. It's not like 3D World.
No, yeah, it's not a gripe. It's just more so. It doesn't. It makes me feel like the game is underbaked or like half effort, and I don't really know if I'd want to spend a full price game because Nintendo's always full price forever to play that.
True.
I heard it's really like good and brings joy or whatever. But I heard it's not that long. It's not that hard. It's really not that technically good. It's not that interesting in a lot of ways. And again, that doesn't mean it's a bad game. It actually is probably a very good game. But those things don't warrant an $80 price tag to me.
Fair. I mean, I get the biggest one there is just the length. And I think with the enjoyment factor, it's kind of, that's subjective, right? It depends on what kind of game you're looking for. Like, if you are looking for, like, for me, this is the perfect 10 to 15 hour game and a perfect break from Elden Ring, where I can kind of just sit back and enjoy like the great music and colors. And I gotta comment on what you said. Underbaked is not the right word. The game is actually technically really well done. I think it's just pushing the Switch to a limit where they had to make a compromise on the distant frame, the enemies in the distance with their lower frame rate.
Yeah, but how can that game be taxing that games like Mario Odyssey weren't?
Well, for one, Mario Odyssey was 720p with and the other thing is that the details in this game, it's much more detailed than something like 3D World. So I think the best comparison is 3D World because they're almost the same type of isometric 3D quasi-linear levels. And while
3D World is 60 frames.
Yeah, and while I will say 3D World ultimately is the better game, it's different because in 3D World, the levels feel like they're somewhat made from like a level creator in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like they're made from a basic tool set, where this one feels like every level is handcrafted and individual. So it's just different that way, and there's more variety in the environment here. There's just much more details. Like as you're running through a mall, like there's just signs and garbage, and as you run through little flowers, the flowers kind of feather out, and like little ducks will follow you, and there's just tons and tons of detail that in variety that wasn't in 3D World, where I felt like the environments in 3D World get a little bit samey, where this one certainly doesn't. So I think part of the exploration and the artistic value of this game is almost better than 3D World. Although the challenge and the length and the moment to moment controls aren't as faster or gamey. But I mean, it is made for a wide audience, right?
Yeah, I think I'd have fun playing it. I just the price isn't right there.
Fair enough. Yeah, I agree there. It is a little overpriced. I mean, in Canada after tax, we're paying $90.
Yeah.
And the thing is, even though I will say this is like a meaty game, as far as Kirby games go, it's pretty meaty, right? It's as long as any Kirby game is, really. Except it has more depth with the town and the mini games and the co-op. But it's still something that when I beat it, I don't necessarily think I'm going to come back to. So whether or not the time per dollar is there, but I will say I'm enjoying every second of it, where even in a game like, Breath of the Wild or Elden Ring, there are moments that I'm either frustrated or I'm kind of just traversing or going through sub-menus. This game has like unadulterated 100%. You're just playing. You know what I mean? Like there isn't any of that kind of downtime. And it's like as soon as you're done in one area, you're mouthful moding a airplane and you're flying through a little thing here and then you're riding a roller coaster. Like it's so much variety. I'm really liking it a lot. To me, it's like a solid 8.5, and definitely my favorite Kirby game.
Yeah.
And the other thing I just will mention too is it's very. I mean, that's why I really don't like how you said it was underbaked, because it's really polished in that the user interface and the graphics, like the menus and the way like things pop up is really well done. Dare I say maybe the best of any Nintendo game ever. Just because it's just so smooth when you select a level, the way the graphic interface kind of transitions in fast load times, and when you get it's really clean and well done.
Okay, I'm not sure underbaked was the word I meant to.
Yeah,
you know what I meant when I said that, but
totally. Like it's not like this giant Starfield, Skyrim, Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild mega game, right? It's just not. But But I mean, like, even if you compare, like, Luigi's Mansion 3 to Kirby, I think, there's a clear difference there in quality. Well, I gotta say, with 3D, Luigi's Mansion 3D 3 is amazing, amazing animation. But still, like I think when we're considering these kind of like 15-hour games that are like quasi 2.5D ish, I would put Kirby and Luigi's Mansion and Metroid Dread even all in the kind of same boat. Like they're not quite the Odyssey or the Breath of the Wild mega games,
Yeah.
but they as that second tier of AAA Nintendo games, like they're all really good. And this could have been a lot worse. And Hell isn't a big team, so for them, in a way, this is like their first AAA game in some senses. And I read the Q&A with the developers. I don't know if you saw that,
No.
but it's just interesting because it's interesting hearing them talk about the things we've always thought, gamers have always thought. Like, one of them was said, it was only a matter of time before Kirby went 3D. It took 30 years, but we've been experimenting. And they said there was always problems. And interestingly, one of the problems they had was with perspective. And
I think I saw this little tweet, but you keep
yeah,
going.
I'll explain it. So it's like if the camera is shifted in such a way where like you're gonna hit like slash your sword and you're not actually gonna connect with an enemy, but based on the camera perspective you will, the game knows how to read that and will make the hit happen. And
Yeah, that's cool.
and this is something where with 3D World, one of my complaints was that the perspective makes it tricky and you almost have to wrap your brain around the perspective of the isometric view. I don't know if you have this problem, but it's like you don't really know where you're going to land in 3D World until you start to find tricks like looking at the shadow and mapping the level in your head and how much adjustment of the analog stick. Like this game doesn't have that problem. But then again, this game's a lot slower and it's easier and stuff. But there are little things. There's a lot of little details I do appreciate. Like for one, there's this when you start playing the game in the first level, it breaks into a song intro with like there's like a Japanese song comes on,
Okay.
and it's like Kirby's just driving in the car, and there's like a cut. There's like scenes where it's like it's almost like you're watching a little mini music video, and I'm just like it's fully in Japanese, and I'm like, you know what? I'm glad that they went there. But funny enough, in the subtitles, which are in English, below the English subtitles is like this other language. And this other language is all over the world, and it can 100% be translated. So people are now going to go through and there's actually like this hidden layer of lore in this game where every signpost and every building actually has a name. And in the discussion with the developers, they talk about how they wanted to use kind of a like an apocalyptic city, but they still wanted to keep it positive, and they had to balance that. So it is kind of weirdly interesting going through a world where there's like there's no people anywhere, but there's like rusted cars and a rusted old carnival, and there's buildings that are half torn down and grown over with flowers, but it's somehow happy. So it's a really weird mix, and there's other little things like when you go to the town, you can go to your house and you can decorate it, and you can press different buttons on the D-pad to wave and do kind of like Smash Bros. Little waving
Taunts,
yeah, sitting and things like that. And then there's also this other kind of like higher level move where you can like do a Bayonetta deke, and it'll actually go into witch time. And I haven't actually mastered this yet because it is tricky, but there is a way to like totally deke at the last second, go to slow-mo, and then do a counterattack. And like, it's just like, you don't need to do it the whole game, but it's there. And there's also this cool kind of thing where like, once you beat a level, there's missions in every level. So you'll beat the level, and then if you missed missions, it'll tell you only after you beat it the first time which missions you missed.
Yeah.
And on some of them, they're pretty hard. It'll be like, don't lose any lives during this section, or a boss that says, don't beat it with this weapon, or beat it without taking a hit.
I heard that was almost annoying though, because some people it's like, oh, like you pick this power up and then you beat the boss, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you had to pick the other power up to get one of the trophy, like the awards. But it's like it's like, you know what I mean? It's like almost making it replayed just for the sake of making it replayed.
Well, let me say. So with those missions, because I've heard both sides of this argument, with the missions, if you really, really densely explore a level, you will 100% it the first time. Like
Not if you have to pick a certain power up to beat a boss.
but bosses are their own levels, and when you start a boss, you're almost immediately at the fight. So I've heard some people complaining, saying, "Oh, I hate how we have to like do the run up to the boss. It's 2 seconds." So I don't know if I really buy that one. And also, it's not going to prevent you from unlocking anything in the game. Like, you're going to still unlock the Coliseum and all the things in Waddle Dee Town by default, by the Waddle Dees you need to progress, and the 3 you get at every level. So it's very much an extra challenge. So it's very much like, oh, you beat a boss, now go back and do it with this weapon. And don't take any damage. Like, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to lose any sleep being like, oh, I should have known before I did it the first time.
Yeah. Okay, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
One, I'm curious how you felt about co-op and if you're playing it with co-op at all. And the second question is about the town and what can you actually do in the town? And is it just superfluous stuff, or is there actually kind of meaningful, interesting things?
So with the co-op, I only played the co-op during the demo. I haven't got Vanessa to sit down with me and play. So I don't really know how that is yet. But I've just been enjoying it as a single player experience. So I can't speak to that. I'm glad that there is drop in and drop out co-op, because it's super easy you can join in the middle of a level and quit in the middle of a level. So it's very basic. And the town, it's not superfluous because, I mean, for one, aesthetically, I really like the town because it starts off and it's like nothing. Like, it's actually like a little tiny area. And you're kind of like, well, how does this town even get bigger in this environment? And it's like they carve out areas where, like, now there'll be a staircase over here. Then, like, it's kind of cool how every level, like, has this major expansion. And just little things like, the Waddle Dees in the town that will start to fill up, and as you walk by, they'll wave at you, and you can even go around and like hurt them, and then they'll like die for a second. So I saw this one video online where someone was like GTA Kirby, and Kirby's just running through the town shooting everybody, and they're all falling down. So it's very interactive. And as far as like gameplay goes, it depends. Like half of it's probably just like collectibles. Like, you go there to collect the icon, the little tiny capsule icons.
Yeah, the models. Yeah.
The models, and you can like put those in your house, and in your house you can like do a little search of old Kirby games, and so there is some superfluous stuff. But for example, like, you need to go to the upgrade house to actually get upgrades on your weapons. And then some of the special levels, the side special levels, you can only go in when you have that upgrade, because it's tailored around that upgrade.
So is there anything besides just the upgrades that are like?
Well, there's the Coliseum, which is almost like its own game in a way, because it's got. I mean, I just unlocked the Coliseum, and I just did the first cup, and at the end was Meta Knight, which was an awesome fight, by the way. They did the bosses really well. And then from that, I unlocked the blueprints to get a Nether upgrade. So I had to do that to get that upgrade. You know what I mean? To get the second tornado upgrade, and then there's now a special level in the map that allows me to use that special tornado upgrade to complete it. So
interesting.
Yeah. So there.
And what do you get for completing the special levels? Just more Waddle Dees, or is that how you get the third special?
You don't get Waddle Dees. You get a red star, and the red stars you spend on your upgrades.
Oh, I thought the upgrades required blueprints.
Well, so you need the blueprints to get. You need the blueprint to be able to get the upgrade, but it's like you're crafting the upgrade with those red stars.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah. So I mean, for the most part, like I've tried to not upgrade things too quickly, because I want to make it a little harder for myself.
Okay.
And like, cause for the most part, like you can become OP pretty quick. And like,
that's why it's fun.
Yeah, it actually is fun. Like, I upgraded the sword, and it's like massive, right? But so it is fun, but sometimes I want to play as the snowman or the snow upgrade, so you can skate on the ground because it becomes ice in front of you, and you move faster. Or the tornado lets you kind of like blaster through guys. So there's a lot of fun ways to go about it. But yeah, it's definitely my favorite Kirby game by far, and I think it also just sets up a great foundation for future Kirby games. Like, if this is the triple deluxe of the 3D Kirbys, and they do like a Planet Robobot where they really expand and add tons of options and tons of unique areas and challenges, then it would be just great. Mm-hmm. The one thing I will say that I think they should add to this game, and I don't know, I heard that when you beat the game, you unlock like a new Game Plus where the levels are remixed or enemies are remixed. I don't know if that's true. But it would be cool to have like an extra hard mode. Like I'm doing it. There's easy and there's like a hard mode, and I'm doing it on the hard mode. But there should be
wild or whatever.
wild versus breezy. But there should be a third one where like you can only take like 3 hits or something, or 2 hits, and you know like something that's quite hard. And it wouldn't be that hard. Like if they just made it so like you only had 3 hits and you died and there was no life, like that would make the levels a lot more engaging and a little more strategic. You know, I know that's not what they're making the game for, but it's just there's little, you know, easy ways they could really make it a lot more challenging and engaging. But so far it's everything I wanted it to be, everything I wanted a 3D Kirby game to be, and more. And I don't know, I think I would have skipped this, but there's part of me that is just fascinated by games transitioning in dimensions.
Yeah,
and just seeing, I mean,
or just like through like almost different genres, just a big change of a game. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. So I mean, you know, when you think about it, there's not been a ton of Nintendo games that have made that transition. There's been, you know, Mario made the transition, Zelda, Metroid, and Kid Icarus, and now Kirby. And there's not really, and Donkey Kong, I guess, with DK64. But it just is interesting to see like what sensibilities are taken to make a new game out of something, but also kind of bring some of the things back, but also introduce new things. And I mean, I think Kirby's probably the least exciting out of all those 3D jumps, just because we've had like a slow buildup of, you know, 3D modeled Kirby games, and Kirby's sensibilities work they pretty much work 1-to-1 in 3D, like exactly how you think. It's not like it's an open world Kirby game. And the one other thing I'll note is that kind of threw me off, and I don't know if you noticed this, is where they've kind of made the jumping and the floating a bit interesting, where I kind of expected a 3D Kirby game to be like, oh, you can float anywhere you want. It's almost like you're flying. But this game, they only give you a certain height that you can float up to. So you obviously can't, like, you know, cheese the levels. So there's times where you'll have to like find a box and jump on a second box to get that height to then float over to another platform, where, you know, my idea of Kirby is like, no, you should just be able to float there from the ground. So I guess I'd love it if one day, maybe 30 years from now, they do make like an open world Kirby game that maybe not even open world, but like New Donk City, with a 3D camera
where you fly that high,
where you can fly really high and you know,
ride the warp star. Yeah,
totally. So maybe one day, but yeah, so far this has been great. Now, honestly, if it ever goes on sale, I would just highly recommend it.
It's something on my radar as far as if the price was right, I'd want to play this game. Like, I'm not against it. Just the price tag right now is too steep.
Yeah, and you know what? It's funny because I heard a lot of people talk about the length, but you know, something like Metroid Dread and Luigi's Mansion are essentially the same length. But I guess those games offer more of a unique experience than this.
yeah, and I mean, I know there's a lot of variety in this game, but, you know, you're still kind of doing, like, I don't know how to explain it. I just find that Luigi's Mansion to me would be like, there's a lot more different elements going on. Even though I know this Kirby game has those, that's how I perceive it.
Totally. No, you're right. But it's always funny when people bring up that argument about hour length of a game when, you know, there's almost...
Yeah, it's not so much the hour length, it's more so, will I actually have fun playing it, or will I just kind of find myself just like going through the game?
I think you'd have fun playing it, but you'd have to play it for the experience more so than the...
I totally. I just more so, will I have fun playing it knowing I spent $90 on it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I try to not think about price.
I know. There's so many other games that are out right now on Nintendo Switch or other systems that are either cheaper that I haven't played or full price that I want to play more. It's kind of like, you know, the as far as the list goes, Kirby's on it. It's just there's 10 games ahead of it.
Yeah, totally. I do wonder if they'll release DLC for this. They did for the last Kirby game. So I wonder if a little DLC will give it a little more kick. Like even like I said, a hard, super hard mode, maybe an extra world or two, could make this awesome. Or even to be honest, like I shouldn't have watched it, but I saw somebody running this on an emulator in 60 frames, and it looked so good, and I'm like, oh man, like I wish I didn't see that. So maybe in the future, if you ever get a chance down the line, if they release like a Kirby anthology game with this, you're gonna love it.
Nice.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Another big release this month was the Mario Kart New Cups.
Oh yeah.
And I know because I saw you playing them the morning they came out.
Yeah, I saw you. I was playing like the first level, and then it says you logged in like that morning. I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah,
Same.
So I just an FYI, I downloaded them from an airport Wi-Fi and played them in the airport. But anyways, any first impressions there, Derek?
I loved all the levels. I thought they looked great. They played great. Some of them are pretty challenging. I like the tour levels a lot, the ones that change.
Yep.
I've already got 3-star gold cup on a gold trophy on every single one.
Yep.
On
150.
No, on 200, mirror, 150, 150.
Okay, question for you.
Yeah.
If you go back, if you do them on 200 and mirrored, like, you know, if you get 3 stars on 150, it'll give you 3.
Yeah. So 150 works for 150. The other two don't work for anything. So 200 is separate from the others.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love them too, actually. Like, I had a great time with them. I have to say, like, this was something I wasn't expecting, but with Shroom Ridge and with Toad Circuit, the one that's from Mario Kart 7 and Mario Kart DS, those two levels, like, I actually got nostalgia. And it's just, I'm not used to having any real nostalgia for the DS or 3DS yet. So it was kind of weird to play those levels and be like, well, wow, like, I remember this level. I played a ton of Mario Kart 7 and Mario Kart DS. So I really like those levels having come back.
See, I don't remember those levels too well, but those are probably two of my favorite levels in the cups.
I find Toad Circuit a little short, but Shroom Ridge to me is probably now one of my favorite Mario Kart levels, full stop.
Yeah.
The power sliding in. And I actually have heard that in 200, it's amazing.
Oh, it's a great level. I mean, I find, honestly, even, is it Toad Circuit that's the short one?
Yeah.
I mean, that one's like a simple, but I just like the song. It's good. But I find all the other levels just interesting enough. You know, it's maybe not, what's the cloud? Is it Cloud Top? What is it?
It is Sky Garden.
Sky Garden. Like, that one's a little bit simpler. But some of the other levels have like some tricky maneuvers and tricky turns, especially at 200 or even 150. You know, you have to kind of, like, I even think of Choco Mountain. There's a few turns in that, like, kind of end area where you actually have to, you know, be pretty good about your power drifting.
For sure. I have to say, though, with Paris and Tokyo, both of those stages I still haven't really wrapped my brain around yet. I've done them countless times, but they change every lap, right? Or at least Paris does.
They do a slight change between lap 1 and 2, and then a major change on lap 3.
Yeah, I feel like Tokyo Blur, I'm always kind of like, oh, we're at the end. Like, I feel like I haven't even finished the first lap. That it's short, it's just that I just can't. You know how you just kind of get a muscle memory for where the turns are? Mm-hmm. Like, even Coconut Mall I jumped into, and I was just like, instantly, I kind of just had the flow down. I just haven't been able to get that with Paris and Tokyo.
Wait till you do it on mirror.
Totally. I mean, and to be honest, that's something I really like about those courses. Is that
I know, that's why I like them too.
They feel fresh.
It's funny. My least favorite level is actually, at least looking online, is everyone else's most favorite. The one I like the least is Ninja Hideaway. I think it's super cool and super fun. Like, so in a way, I obviously love it because I love all of them. But I find it almost too frantic with too much going on and too many paths, and I don't really know, you know, the optimal route or what's kind of like, there's just too much. It takes away a bit from the driving and more so it's just like craziness.
I think I agree. I think Sky Garden I find is my least favorite because it's boring.
Yeah, true.
But
true.
Ninja Hideaway almost feels like it's not, the actual route isn't really laid out properly or something. Like, there's not enough indicators or something. So
it's just not clear.
It's not clear. So it's funny. Like, I consider both these cups to be like the easier cups, probably of the remastered DLC. But Ninja Hideaway, like, is out of nowhere would be like a special cup. You know what I mean? Like, super hard. Where the rest are pretty easy between Tokyo Shroom and Sky Garden. So yeah, that's probably one of my least favorites as well. But the other thing I wanted to touch on is a lot of people I've seen are complaining about the graphics.
I had no issue with the graphics. I think they look great.
I'm the same way. Like, I actually am like kind of, it's like that Puddlegate, right, with the Spider-Man game. Like, it's insane what people are looking into. And I saw someone pull up an image of like the grass on Shroom Ridge versus the grass in one of the Mario Kart 8 levels, like the original levels, and how in Shroom Ridge is like kind of just like a green texture. But to me, that like perfectly gives the DS aesthetic towards the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
it's a style. Like you don't want every level to have the same grass, you know?
exactly. And I mean, clearly these levels aren't remade to the same level as the original Mario Kart 8 remade levels. But I think that's the point. I think these are supposed to be like remasters, not total remakes.
And also, like, even if it is because of, less budget, less time, less of a team working on it, it still is great. Like, it's not like it's kind of crappy. Like, it's a really good, like, all the levels look great. The music sounds great. Like, I have no issues with any of that. I'm really excited for the other, what is it, 12 cups or something, 10 cups.
Yeah,
It's gonna be awesome.
I mean, the only thing I'm a little, I don't know, upset about here is that they didn't release them all at once, or at least more of them at once, because it seems weird to be like I was excited, I downloaded them, I played them, and it just kind of felt weird to be like, okay, I played these 8 cups, now I'm gonna like go online and cycle through till I play some of them online, and I'm just kind of like, well, I kind of just wish I got a big meaty chunk of Mario Kart stages.
Well, I was gonna say the same thing. The thing that bothers me is, we're getting these till 2023, end of 2023. So it's not like these are coming out every 6 weeks. They're coming out every
4
15.
months.
Yeah, exactly. And which is a bummer. But you got to understand that you and I are the kind of gamers. I mean, we have a Nintendo podcast that we're gonna wait and find the day the next cups come out and play them. Where someone else might just, I have friends that probably play Mario Kart and they might eventually get this DLC or whatever, but they'll pick it up halfway down the line, or they'll only check it, when they play with their friends 5 months later, and all of a sudden they have 4 new cups, 6 new cups. So
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit different where you and I, we're literally playing them the morning they come out.
Yeah, totally. I guess my complaint is I want more, and that's always my complaint.
Yeah, that's how I felt with like games like Returnal. It's like my biggest complaint is just I want more content because it's so good.
Yeah, totally. And I got to say, playing these 2 cups, I'm just so happy the whole time, and all I'm thinking is, wow, this really is like not only maybe the best racing game ever, but like one of the best games ever.
Yeah, totally.
The fact that you can release more or less rather generic remasters of old courses for a, what is it, 9-year-old game now? It came out in 2014. And it's still like exhilarating and perfectly balanced, and it's like it's not boring at all.
I know. Yeah. I loved it, and no, I totally know what you're saying. Like, I'm excited for every new level, even if they're already remakes. They're only so frequent, and you're right. It's an older game. And as much as I would want Mario Kart 9 or 10 or whatever the next one is, I'm so happy with this. Like, this is going to be awesome.
I totally agree. And it kind of fulfills that promise I hoped Deluxe would have had. I mean, when they first released Deluxe, I was like, oh, they'll hopefully keep releasing cups and characters for this. And, now 5 some odd years later, they're finally doing it. So
yeah, it does raise the... Sorry, you go.
I was going to say, I just hope that they add some new racers to the mix.
Yeah, I don't think they will. My question to you is, now that we'll have 96 courses, we'll have a good majority of the levels from previous games. Where do you think Mario Kart 10 goes? Do you think it just is brand new courses? Do you think it'll have, the same 96, same kind of HD graphics, and then, add more? Do you think it'll have the same engine, just, revamped? Or do you think they're going to overhaul everything? Like, I'm kind of curious of where it goes, because it kind of seems like they're saying, the next 2 years we're just going to flood this game because either the next Mario Kart is far away, or they're changing it up drastically.
Well, we know at the very least they're not going to announce the next Mario Kart in the next 2 years.
Yeah,
right?
Agreed, exactly.
It makes no sense. And the other question I have is you said Mario Kart 10. Does that mean we think Nintendo will include Mario Kart Tour as number 9?
I think the fact that they're putting the levels into this game means that it is number 9. Because one, you got to think about it. Other Mario Kart games didn't have a number beside them, but they're counted in the
Well, 7 did.
Yeah, but 7, I know 7 and 8 did, but I'm saying, Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64, didn't have numbers beside their name, but they counted up to the 8. So I'd be shocked if Mario Kart Tour didn't.
But they skipped the two arcade games.
But did those games have new levels?
Fully new levels, and they're also, because they were co-developed with Namco, have Pac-Man and Mrs. Pac-Man in them. I played them, by the way. They're not fun. I mean, they're fun in the sense that you're, on an arcade, you're a little bit drunk, and you're,
The other thing is those levels have never been added, so I don't know.
Right.
Maybe the fact that they brought Mario Kart Tour levels in to now be like, permanent mainstay levels. They're kind of saying it is 9. I don't really care at the end of the day. It's just a number. But I that's why I said at the beginning, whether it's 9 or 10, I don't know. I'm leaning more towards it being 10 and being a real big, cool overhaul of something awesome. Just a weird speculation. I don't think they'll put the number next to the next Mario Kart. I think they'll call it Mario Kart subtitle. Yeah, okay, I agree.
So for one, my prediction with both Mario Kart and Smash Brothers, because it's a common question, right? Is like, what's going to happen with these series now that they've not peaked, but become these ultimate versions of themselves? Mm-hmm. I think what'll happen is on the Switch 2 or Switch Pro, or, let's say 5 years from now, we're going to get both Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Game of the Year Edition 4K, and we're going to get Mario Kart 8 Ultimate Edition 4K. That'll sustain for another bunch of years. So I don't actually think we're gonna get a new Smash Bros. Or a new Mario Kart for a very long time. I think it could be up to like 7 or 8 or even 10 years until we see another brand new one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know with Mario Kart 8. I could see they doing with Smash Ultimate because all the DLC, and it takes a long time to make a new game if Sakurai's doing it or not. But Mario Kart 8 is already a remake. So I could see it more so they would do this. They would say, hey, the new Mario Kart game is coming out on Switch 2, Mario Kart 9 or whatever, and we're bringing in, if you pay, the deluxe upgrade, you get all 96 levels from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and then you get the new levels and cups that we're putting into the 9.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great. It just doesn't really seem like a Nintendo way to go about it. They usually, unless there's a big technological jump, they usually have some sort of, creative iteration on the series. Like, I don't know if they'd be able to justify releasing a brand new, like, what would be new about it?
But I was going to say, what can they possibly do? How can they possibly release the same game 3 times on 3 different systems? Like, they've got to have something different.
Sorry, did you ask how Nintendo can release the same game 3 times?
No.
How about let alone a dozen?
I know, but I'm saying they don't often do it back to back to back like that.
You're right, and you know what?
And without any other iterations of the IP within there.
So there's two actually. I mean, to give you a real answer, because I've sidestepped your question. What I think they'll do with the future of Mario Kart is 2 directions. One, it'll become like the Nintendo Kart. And we'll start to see things like all the other. They maybe still call it Mario. Maybe they'll call it like Mario Kart Nintendo Universe or something. But you'll get like tons of those style, like Captain Falcon, Kirby will all be there, and there'll be tons of levels from all different series as kind of like a celebration of all these different series.
Yeah, I could also see them bringing in again the Diddy Kong kind of vehicles. They could bring in boats and planes and just change like I don't know. I could see that changing up a lot.
Yep, I think that's another option. And I also think the other option would be to go the way of like a Burnout. What's that game? Where it's some racing games have kind of like a Horizon. What's that game called for Forza Horizon, where it's like the 2 racing models, like the Gran Turismo style, where it's like you choose your course, you racing cups. That's what Mario Kart's followed. But can Mario Kart do the more open map system of something like a Forza or a Burnout Paradise, where it's like, hey,
that would be kind of cool if you were in, let's say, like Mushroom Kingdom, that was like World 1, and you just drive to like 8 or 9 different courses there.
Yeah, off-roading, shortcuts, multiple paths, and then the courses could be made within that world or with some outside of it, right? Maybe there are a few cups.
You could even have courses that like go through each other. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like you could take, let's say, I don't know, I'm going to say a warp star, or like you could take a green pipe and go to a different world, because it's kind of like you might not have all the aesthetics that you want in one area. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, I think you could have something where it's like a big island that has, you know, even like a Mushroom Kingdom quasi kind of kingdom area, and then you've got your volcano, your snow, your underground area. But I think then you might go to a like the go to like a cup area. Like let's say you go to this area and like, yeah, I want to start this cup, and then you actually go to a whole four races that are somewhere totally else. Maybe they'll even bring back some of the Mario Kart 8 tracks for those. But the idea is like the hub world would have races in it, but also have all these other things like mini games and unlockables and.
As long as there's a way to like pause the game and just go straight to a level without actually having to drive there, I would like that. Because you know, like after a while, Mario Kart, like I just want to play the levels. Where that would be fun to go and explore and see some cool, you know. But eventually, I just want to play the cup.
Yeah, totally. I just think using something like Forza Horizon would be like a really cool model, especially for.
I love it. Like imagine like driving up towards Bowser's Castle, and there's like 3 or 4 levels in Bowser's Castle. Like, you know, one going through the lava, one like, and they're all you're driving up to the castle, and you see all these raceways intertwining each other and stuff.
Yeah, or if you need to like get into Bowser's Castle, you have to like there's like 3 Koopas waiting in their carts at the gate, and you have to like ride up with red shells and take them out to get in. So there's a little bit of combat involved in that, which I think could be really cool as well. So I think if they follow that model and bring some creativity to it, they could even almost make it almost like a side thing, like a Mario Kart, you know, world kind of thing, or call it something like that. And maybe you just play as Mario at the beginning. And you or like Mario, Luigi, and Peach, and you have to like upgrade and unlock and whatever. I also had an idea about if they ever did. I mean, I one of the biggest disappointments with Mario Kart 8 for me was the multiplayer. Or sorry, not just the racing, but the actual battle mode. So I'd love to see them try to take that aspect on, and maybe even make like a Mario Kart Battle Royale, where you have 40 people dropped in a big block zone, and once you're eliminated, you're out, and it's like last cart standing. Like something like that could be really cool, and I think they could even do something like that that's free to play, based entirely on the Mario Kart 8 engine, and then they have some sort of cosmetics, that come out with it, or you only have like, Mario and Metal Mario, and you have to pay for the other characters, kind of thing.
Like I would like a lot if. I find for me the main reason I don't like battle in Mario Kart is I find the levels too constricting. The battle areas are too smaller. There's so many walls. So I'm just thinking about like, how cool would it be if they actually made a giant, I'm going to go back to Bowser's Castle, made a giant Bowser's Castle with all these like hidden paths, and there's like, just a huge area, and you do have 40, 50 people playing online, but it's big enough where you don't feel like you're just pummeled with shells. And it doesn't feel so constricting where you just feel like you're in tight corridors all the time. That's the problem. I truly have it with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Like, no matter what level it is, I feel like I'm just going down narrow corridors or like these sharp corners, or I'm just surrounded by all these people because the area's too small.
I mean, it almost, Mario Kart 8's multiplayer battle mode to me almost begs the question if Mario Kart battle mode was ever really that good, or if it was just back on the N64, there wasn't a lot of competition. Like, it ultimately is just kind of drive around, get a weapon, hope for the best. Like, the strategy is pretty limited. And I think with Mario Kart 8, like, making the racing controls so good and fast, it's like it almost kind of broke the multiplayer a little bit, too. So, You're right. It almost begs the question of, like, is this even worth it? Or do they just go back and, like, rethink the whole idea and, like, make Mario Kart Mario Tank Battle or something, like, totally different that's entirely focused on, Because even in Mario Kart 8, with, let's say you're doing the team multiplayer, where it's like, blue team and red team, like, it doesn't add anything, right? It's not like, lack of communication aside, it's not like you're, like, defending an area, and it's, you know what I mean? And I know they try to give you, like, an easier way to spin around, but it doesn't really translate, and it's not like, I think maybe some sort of double dash mode could work, where the person in the back is aiming the shell, so you get a little more of the skill-based, I don't know, but, who knows? Right?
Yeah.
I think battle mode has always been kind of a side mode, but
it'd be fun to have it a bit better, but at the end of the day, I really only care about the racing.
Yeah, and they've just made it so good in this one. So
yeah, it's so good.
So let's move on to some non-Nintendo news. So right now, there's a lot of rumors about Sony unveiling their Game Pass competitor. I believe it's called Spartacus.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard that.
But I've heard, the Spartacus, yeah.
But both Bloomberg have reported that Sony's planning to announce it, and I think it's the Kind of Funny Games podcast with Greg Miller. I don't listen to it very often. I do like this guy Grid Miller. He's funny and he stands up for what's right. But he has delayed his podcast for 3 days for a quote series of Sony announcements. So I think it's safe to say that this week we should expect something from Sony. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, hopes, dreams.
I go in expecting the absolute worst with like a really shitty price tag, super expensive, bad games, not like Game Pass at all. Because apparently, when this first was rumored, a few months ago, it was rumored that Spartacus wouldn't have brand new games coming to it. Not like Game Pass, where a new game comes out, it's on Game Pass. This would be more like almost like a Nintendo Switch Online, like the old retro games. You could pay a subscription fee and get all of those old games, kind of thing. So it doesn't. I have very low expectations for it. I probably will not get it. I'm trying to move away from spending all this money on these subscriptions.
Yeah, same.
Like a Game Pass is fine because but even Game Pass, like I haven't played Xbox in 2 months, and it's like, well, there's $10 I didn't.
That's I mean, that's my issue. I mean, even though I paid for it till 2025, so.
Yeah, it's like me too. It's like such a good deal. Like at the end of the day, it's like it's basically nothing if you think of it over 3 years. But yeah, so I don't really plan on getting it, but I'm interested to see it. I actually am more interested to see if they show anything else besides just Spartacus. I'm curious of what their lineup is in the next 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, other than God of War, right?
Yeah, but do we really know God of War is coming?
Well, it was supposed to come out last year, and they showed gameplay of it already. I mean, to me, it looked exactly like the last God of War, so I couldn't tell the difference. But yeah, I mean, it is coming for PS4 as well, isn't it? The new God of War.
Yeah.
Who knows, right? Maybe Final Fantasy 16 will make it. I think maybe Sony's saving some stuff for their E3 if they're going to be there, or the June timeframe announcements.
Yeah, the June showcase is what I've been calling it now.
Yeah, pretty much. Has Sony announced they're not going to E3?
I don't know. I don't even. Is E3 even a thing anymore? I don't even pay.
Yeah, I mean they've already said it's going to be digital only, but yeah, it's still an event. I just wonder if this will be a little bit of game announcements, or if it really will just be their new Spartacus announcement. I mean, it seems like if they did announce their streaming plan, or not their streaming plan, their like subscription plan, it would kind of dampen the excitement of like a brand new Silent Hill announcement, and vice versa.
True, yeah.
So I just don't see it happening at the same time, and maybe if they do it like Nintendo style, where it's like, hey, we're doing a direct, and here's this, and here's that, and here's this, like maybe.
Yeah, but I could also see it as, let's say it is more like Game Pass. They could say, hey, this is what it is, and here are 2 or 3 games that are coming day one to Spartacus this year.
And they'd be unannounced games?
Well, it could be God of War, and then show, I don't know, a game that's been heavily rumored, or a sequel, or a remake, or I don't know. I'm just speculating here. But, if it is like Game Pass, I could see them saying, hey, here's God of War, 2 or 3 minute trailer of gameplay. It's coming November, Spartacus day one.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, I think the big question for me is what they're going to do with their classic library of games, because a lot of people are upset that I mean, you and I, we've both been PlayStation gamers, but not as hardcore as some other people, where they've been collecting PSN games on PS3 and PS4, and they're like, why can't I play these on PS5? Why can't I migrate them all over? And not to mention, how come all these games for PlayStation 1, I believe it was something like you could download PS1 games on PS3, but then they weren't available on PS4. So it's like they have a really weird backwards compatibility strategy, and I'd love to see that kind of all just come together in the way that Game Pass handled it, where it's like, no, you're not using PS Now to stream this game. You are actually you want to go play Jet Moto 1 for PlayStation, you want to go play like our PlayStation Classics on PS2, just download it and play it right now in up-res, HD. Like that would make me interested. If I could download the original God of War and play it in up-resed 4K, cleaned up graphics, emulated and have higher resolution, I'd be interested.
Yeah.
But it also sort of begs the question too, does Sony have an amazing lineup of classic games? Like if you remove the Final Fantasies and the Metal Gear Solids and the Crash Bandicoots, like what is their amazing Sony games on PlayStation?
I mean, they got all the Ratchet and Clanks, all the Jack and Daxters.
That's PS2, but it's not PS1. But yeah, I agree.
Well,
I know what you're saying.
But you never know with Spartacus if it is like Game Pass. That's when they start saying things like, "Oh, we have all the Soul Calibur games," or they could say we have all the Metal Gear games. Like, you never know because Game Pass, they have deals with.
You're right. You're right. I think it could be interesting if Sony literally came out with the exact same thing Game Pass has and said, like you said, every Ratchet and Clank is here, every Jak and Daxter is here, everything from Sucker Punch is here, every Infamous is here. Like everything.
Oh, I think is what it will be.
Well, that actually doesn't sound so bad, especially if their emulation is good and the price is good, and if it includes future games as well. Like
that's what I'm not sure about. I don't know if it'll be a day one. It might be a year after it's already been out.
I mean, it's just hard because their literally direct competitor is doing it. So how can they come out and say, oh yeah, but we still want you to spend $90 on the latest game of this, when Xbox is saying, no, you have Game Pass, you're going to get Halo, you're going to get Starfield, you're gonna, like, I don't know, Sony's not, I don't know if they're going to be able to come out and say, hey, we have something that's similar to our competitor but worse.
Yeah, but I don't think they're, again, I agree, if they're trying to compare it to Game Pass, but I could also see it as them comparing it to like Nintendo Switch, where they're saying, hey, we have PS1, PS2, PS3 games, not PS4 and not PS5. Or even PS4. I'm just saying they might say PS5 is not available on this. This is like a retro way, a subscription to play all your old games from the first 3 systems or first 4.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be cool if the price is right.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there's 2 ways. It could either be like Game Pass, in which case I agree it should have those day one, or it could be more like Nintendo Switch Online, where those games are just the classics.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, given given the fact that Sony does have more interesting games than Microsoft does, I'd also be okay if they said we're gonna release all of our games on here, but new releases you have to wait 6 months. So I'd still be able to get in and play Returnal and Demon's Souls and the Spider-Man, but maybe I'd have to wait on something like Horizon until the fall.
Yeah, I think it might be more like a year, but that's actually what I think it will be. That's like truly what I think it will be.
And to be honest, that doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Again, for me, I'm a collector, and I don't really have that many old PlayStation games I want to play. But yeah, for you, like, to be able to pick up a PlayStation 5, let's say in a year from now, and be able to play all those games,
yep.
It's awesome.
And never really buy anything would be great. I mean, for Xbox, literally Elden Ring is the first game I bought.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, like I bought some indies and stuff like that, and I bought Resident Evil 8. Oh no, I brought Resident Evil 8, but it was on sale, so it doesn't count. Anyways, yeah, I'm interested to see what they have in store, but like I think at the end of the day, gamers like us, like we want to see new games. You know what I mean? And,
yeah.
And I believe there's also an Xbox event coming up. So I think we're at this position now where both Sony and Microsoft should be showing us some stuff from this year. Otherwise, I'm kind of losing some hope, I don't want to end up where it's like, oh, hey, E3 comes around, we saw God of War, we see Starfield, and that's it.
I know. I really don't know with COVID the past few years. I really don't know what the production line is like for any of the companies. We keep getting all these games getting delayed, and I just don't know. This year started off with a lot of hype about all these games are coming, and somehow every game just slowly gets pushed back. Like we had 3 or 4 delays already.
Yeah.
So I'm just who knows.
I'm really surprised that Rocksteady's Suicide Squad got delayed because that was looking polished, and they announced an August release date, in January or December, and it's like they're delaying it now in March. Like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what happened in that 3 months that they're like, oh, we're not going to meet our targets? Where it seems like to me Nintendo's firing on all cylinders. Like, from now until September, they're loaded with games.
Yeah, I agree. Nintendo has a really... Well, I also think because Nintendo has a bit smaller of scope with their games, they're okay putting those 8 to 15 hour games that are just simple and fun, Where I find that, if you look at Sony or Xbox first party games, they need to have those insane high quality cutscenes, the long story, the voice acting,
Yeah.
where it's a totally different kind of giant.
Yep. Well, it's funny because, I mean, even looking at something like Kirby, which, for all intents and purposes is like, could be seen as an indie game that's really, really polished. But because it's got this, character that everyone loves, and it's got this, like, great music and this pedigree of the series, we almost kind of look at it like a AAA where, then Microsoft comes out, releases Ori, which is like amazing, beautiful game, and it gets totally overlooked because it's 2D. So it's kind of just funny how you're right, the standards are completely different.
And the other thing is Nintendo, they just, like you said, like their games sell at those prices. They sell really well and they don't go down in price and they keep selling. Where, even if Ori comes out and people buy it, other people are just going to wait. And I don't really know how that all works, but it's interesting to see that, Nintendo, not that they're not doing full effort, but they can kind of get away with those smaller scope games at full price.
Yeah, and I actually think it has a lot to, I mean, not that I think it has to do with two things, and one of them being just their character recognition, right? With Smash Bros. And other series, like, something like Kirby is really, like, if this Kirby game didn't have Kirby, it'd be like, it wouldn't be as interesting
if it was
for
like
anybody.
Pink Blob Boy, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that their design philosophy for Nintendo is like, well, we need to make sure the play control is fun in and of itself. Where I think the other two don't really focus on that as much. I think they maybe are now, but I think their ideas of games are different. And big scale multiplayer and big and great dense AI and pushing ray tracing and graphics. Where Nintendo's like, no, we just need a 5-year-old to be able to pick up the controller and be able to run around and suck things up and have fun.
I find it
a minute.
Nintendo's philosophy is someone should be able to pick up the game, sit down, and within moments, like, have a smile on their face at any age. It doesn't have to be hard, interesting story. Like, it's just a fun game. You have a smile on your face while you play as fast as possible for as long as possible. And you're totally right, where if I think about, all of Sony's first party games, there's not a single one where I don't, kind of get, I have to play through 2 hours of the introduction with a bunch of cutscenes and tutorials. Even though the games are great, like Elden Ring actually is a little bit different because you do kind of jump into that game right away.
Elden Ring is a different beast.
Yeah, but if you look at, let's say, Horizon, you do have that kind of slog at the beginning. I went back to it today. I'll talk about it when we get to what we've been playing. But you do get a totally different feel than Nintendo. Nintendo is like, it is simple, but it's simple and it's straight to the point of being fun. Where this game there's a lot more to it, but part of it is a little bit of a drag.
Yeah, it's like gameplay feel first, and I think Elden Ring, one of the reasons I love it so much is it also takes that philosophy to heart, and I think all the Souls games do. But yeah, sometimes like things like Death Stranding, I'm curious about, but I don't want to sit through a 2-hour intro, and even something like Last of Us 2, which I really want to replay. If the story wasn't so good, I probably wouldn't want to go through those areas where you're walking and talking and things like that. So yeah, it's a gameplay first approach, and I think more developers would be smart to go after that. I mean, looking at the sales of things like Elden Ring and even like something like Minecraft, you'd think that Sony and Microsoft would be taking that design philosophy themselves. You know.
I mean, I think Sony has a bit, like, I think of Astrobot.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play the VR one as much as you, but even the one that comes with the PS5, it is that kind of game. You just jump right in. It shows you all these cool things about the controller. It is very simple, but it is super fun.
Yeah. I'm hoping they give that team a full, let them make a full game with a full budget.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're working on it. Anyways, let's move on to some other recent releases, actually. So Ghostwire Tokyo also came out 2 days ago. Mm-hmm. PS5 exclusive, I believe, right? Not PS4.
PS5 exclusive, yeah, for now.
It got a 75 on Metacritic. And I don't know about you, but I watched some video reviews, and it looks fun, it looks good, but the combat does look like it gets repetitive.
Yeah, that was my biggest gripe too. I think it looks really interesting. Like there's not many games like this. It's a cool world. It's cool gameplay. It's a cool idea. But you're right. From the moment the moment to moment gameplay just felt kind of boring to me. Like I might pick this up when it's $20.
Yeah, it kind of looks to me like a Far Cry that takes place in a city in Tokyo. Like, and that's open world, you know?
Yeah, I've been reading impressions of people that have been playing it, and they all seem to really like it. I haven't really seen anyone say this game is boring or sucks. Like every single person that is playing it has liked it.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing one of the things I saw in the video review was like, there's ways that you can there's like strategies that you can just like literally beat every enemy with the same way for the whole game. Like as long as you do this one, like it's like a strong attack, like a strong power shot, and as long as you just like walk backwards and fire that at enemies, like you can literally cheese the whole game that way. So little things like that. But for me, it's definitely something Game Pass next year. I'll give it a try. We'll see, right? I can't not spending full price on it.
I mean, it's interesting because it's made by Tango, which is probably is my favorite studio owned by ZeniMax.
And the head of the studio is Shinji Mikami, the Resident Evil creator.
Yeah, he did not. I don't think he played a very
he doesn't direct games anymore. He just supervises.
Okay, because I loved The Evil Within 1 and 2, and I hope they're making a third one. I'm a bit surprised because, not surprised, but this game is not quite the same feel, and I want to play it because I like that studio. But I am really excited for what they're going to do next. I'm even though this one to me isn't the one I'm excited about, I still really like the company, and I'm excited to see what they're going to make. Hopefully, Evil Within 3. But I believe there was an interview, and he said that they wanted to go away from making horror games.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, if they have some really cool ideas, whatever, go for it. I mean, that's the whole point of being a developer. But I also hope they're like one of the few companies that still makes scary, good horror games. So I hope they don't get rid of that completely.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, especially coming off Resident Evil 8, which wasn't very scary. Great game aside, you're right. Like a game that's actually scary, it's almost like you have to go to the indie games for that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, that'll be something to look out for next year on Xbox Game Pass. So the other game that came out on Game Pass as well was Tunic. I downloaded it, but I haven't had a chance to play it. What about you, Derek?
Me too. I downloaded it, but I haven't had a chance to play it. Elden Ring has been taking my time. I have read, though, that the gameplay generally is really, really good, but the bosses are like bullshit hard to the point where it's not balanced and like not fun, and almost everyone is just turning on the invincibility mode and the accessibility options.
I heard about the invincibility mode that people are like, oh, I can just turn God mode on and get through a boss. Like, I don't. Why do they have that?
But apparently it's because the bosses are like beyond Souls level hard, and the rest of the game is like Zelda good. You know what I mean? So it's like, oh, you're playing this really awesome Zelda game. It feels that kind of difficulty, and all of a sudden the boss is like, you're going to be dying over and over and over and over again to beat it, and it feels punishingly hard. So everyone's just like, fuck this, I don't want to do it.
I've also heard that some of the puzzles are a little obtuse. It's like, oh, you have to bomb that one wall in that one area, or else you're literally running around the whole world until you find that one wall.
Yeah, I heard that too. I mean, I still want to play it because it does look cool, and it's a Zelda-like game, but again, there's a list of games I'm trying to play, and that's maybe fourth right now on the list.
Yeah, for me, it might be something I play once, and the moment I get stuck, I'm done with it. The graphics look good to me, but I feel like it's like Death's Door kind of gave me that itch last year, that style.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know, it's interesting with indie games, because sometimes I feel like they come out and they get a lot of buzz, like maybe Tunic is getting, and then by the end of the year, they're totally forgotten about. Or the exact opposite.
Yeah, I feel like Tunic will be that, though. I feel like people are liking it, sort of, but I don't think it has any kind of staying power.
Yeah, true. Still got an 85 on Metacritic, so respectable. The other game that came out, because I remember you messaged me about these two games, Tunic, and then there's Shredders, which is the snowboarding game, and I actually did give this a try. Have you tried this?
No, I haven't. Is it good?
I mean, not really. I mean, so
I saw it. So let me just tell you my experience. So I was gonna download this and play this, and then I saw some YouTube videos of it on like the day before it came out. And the voice acting is done by real professional snowboarders, and it is atrocious voice acting. and the gameplay didn't look that good. It like I get like the core of it, the snowboarding is good, but I heard the controls are kind of weird to do the tricks. It's almost like skate where you have to wind up a certain direction to pull it off, and
Yep.
it just didn't. After I read more about it, just like, well, I don't really want to even bother downloading it because it doesn't. I was hoping for like a 1080 snowboarding feel, and it doesn't seem like that's it.
Yeah, so this to me is almost like a spiritual sequel to the Amped series. I don't know if you ever remember playing those on the original Xbox.
No.
They had Amped 1 and 2, and I think at the time it was like, oh cool, it's a snowboard. It's like a sim snowboard game, right? So it's not over the top, it's not unrealistic, it's not even like Tony Hawk where you can do things that you could never do. It's so simmy that it's like not really that fun. And the trick system almost feels too realistic, and it amounts to just the same old game we've played where it's like, here's the mountain, here's a bunch of checklists, go and do those challenges, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of not fun. And I guess I kind of came to the realization that if I play a extreme sports video game, I want it to be more extreme than the sport.
Yeah,
like,
I totally. I want it to be insane. Like that's why I loved SSX. It's like you really are jumping off like a huge mountain and doing like the craziest tricks in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather just play SSX 3 on Xbox, beat backwards compatibility because that's great. But with shredders and games like it, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just it's not really that fun. And I think with snowboard games are in a weird place. Like I didn't even love the skate game very much. Like I had fun with it for a few days. But I don't think it was a play style that like would last a few sequels, which it didn't. But like the new Tony Hawk remake, I absolutely love. And it's just it's a fun game mechanic where this is just trying too hard to be realistic. And really, I just want to be like, well, let me free in the mountains. I just want to like ride down mountains. I don't want icons over the screen. I don't want you to take me through tutorials. I just want freedom and fun. And they wouldn't give it to me. So yeah, it's not a. But I do think snowboard games are in a weird place because. Even people always say, oh, the feeling of 1080 snowboarding, which at the time was awesome, but if you go back to it...
It doesn't... I know, yeah.
I mean, it's like the trick system was awful. And also, there's like 6 races. And you had to have like this weird pixel-perfect ability to land even just the most normal jump. So it wasn't really all that fun going back to it. And the 1080 Avalanche on GameCube, which I have and recently did play, is like... somehow even less fun. So I think they need someone like Nintendo to go back and be like, well, how can we make this fun to play right away? And I think
I think they could make a great snowboarding game. They made it Mario Snowboarders. They took the same principle from SSX and then some zaniness from like the Mario Kart and just like made a wildly fun game. They could do it.
Totally agree. And I think the first thing they need to nail is play controls, but also the sense of speed. And that's something that Shredders especially does not have. But anyways, another snowboarding game bites the dust. So there's another thing I want to talk about before we move on to what we've been playing. And it's this Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, which comes out in about a week and a half. Or a few weeks. It comes out in April. And I honestly didn't pay any mind to this. I have a feeling you don't or haven't either. But I was with my friend the other day, and he's a massive Nintendo fan and a massive Lego fan. And he has every single Star Wars game, and he even had Star Wars Dimensions and all the things to scan. And he like loved that game, and he loved Lego City Undercover on Wii U. Like he's a Lego game fan. His whole basement is a giant Lego City. Like
That's cool.
He has like over $50,000 of Lego.
He's like, he's hardcore into it.
He's hardcore into it. He kicked all the boxes, everything. But anyway, so he was telling me about this Star Wars Lego Skywalker Saga and how excited he is. And I'm kind of like, well, isn't this just another Lego Star Wars game? And he's like, no. So for one, they made all 9 trilogies are in the game. Or sorry, all 3 trilogies are in the game.
Yeah. And
the DLC, they're going to release DLC for Mandalorian and Han Solo story. So like, it's just a massive amount of content. But on top of that, there's also a free play mode where you can go to like a dizzying amount of planets like Tatooine and Dagobah and Coruscant and just run around and do side missions for people. And it's like this, it's like a dizzying amount of content for one. And the second of all, the graphics actually look really, really good. I mean, he's getting it for Switch, which I I advise against. But the graphics for the next gen versions looks amazing, and like they've revamped like the details in the environments, and also when you're like targeting and shooting, like it used to just be like auto target. Now you go into like a Resident Evil 4 style over the shoulder shooter mode, and you can like shoot them in the leg, and they'll fall to their knees and shoot their helmet off. Like it's like they put a lot of work into this game.
That sounds cool, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so,
my only experience with the Lego games is I think I played Lego Marvel Superheroes, like one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I found those games already had a dizzying amount of content. And I found it almost so much to do that it almost became monotonous and not really a fun game to play at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because the game itself was kind of easy. And, you know, the story's actually pretty funny or whatever, and some of the humor. But it's just like collect this, collect that, collect this, do this, find these things, bring them back here. And I just find it after, you know, so many hours, I was like, man, this game really isn't that fun because the actual gameplay of it is really easy.
Yeah.
So I'm worried that, you know, I would be like, oh, this game looks really good. I'd buy the Star Wars Lego Saga, and I'd play like episode 1, and I'd be like, oh my God, like there's already too much for me to play, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I'm probably not going to buy this because I've never enjoyed a single Lego game other than Lego City Undercover.
I like Lego Chess back on the PC.
Yeah, I remember that game back in the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, but I'm just kind of like letting you know this. I think this game's going to get pretty good reviews, like mid 8s to like high 8s. And yeah, it's too bad we didn't add it to our what's it called? Our fantasy league. But I just, you know, it's funny. I think it's going to be a really, really successful game, and people are going to love it. And if it comes to Game Pass, I probably won't download it, but I'll probably look at the icon for longer than other games. So, but yeah, it's not my kind of game, but who knows, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So after this, I want to know what's your next game you plan to buy.
So there's a few options. I either might grab Triangle Strategy.
Oh, you haven't got that yet, eh?
No, because I've been playing. I mean, we haven't gone to what's been playing. So it's either that, or I'll grab Mario Strikers Battle League.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of any Sony or Xbox game that's coming out that I'd want to buy, or even a third-party game. So yeah, I think that's it's either Triangle Strategy or Mario Strikers.
And there's also, you know, Switch Sports is coming out for
yeah.
price.
I don't know if I'll get that. Like I think that's a kind of game that I'll wait and see if a whole bunch more DLC games get added for free, and then I'd get.
Yeah, I mean that game would have to have something special in it that they haven't shown to make me want it.
Yeah, if they package it with like, you know, 2 more Joy-Cons, then
yeah, and you know what? Yeah, exactly. But I've got to say, you know, just having tried the demo of that, I don't know if it was because I was playing online, but the controls didn't feel that good. Like it didn't even feel as good as Wii Tennis. The tennis felt off. And I really hope that's from my online, and I have faster internet now, but still, like I would need to know that the actual play controls were as good as the originals offline for me to be interested at all. Like right now, I don't know, like I don't know what to think of that game.
Yeah.
So I'm probably not going to get it, but yeah, for me, I don't even know what my next game is. I kind of told myself after Elden Ring and Kirby I was going to take a break. I think I might not even get Mario Strikers because I don't know how much single player longevity that's going to have.
Yeah, like I have friends that I could just bring it to their house, and instead of Smash that night, we'd play, or Mario Kart, we'd play Mario Strikers. So it's like a game that I will have friends to play with.
True.
And I love playing even Mario Strikers for the Wii. I played that, like all the campaigns, I got every single character. Like I love the single player.
Okay, so yeah, you're about that. But yeah, I think my next game will probably end up being whenever one of those Ninja Turtle games come out, whether it's Shredder's Revenge or the Cowabunga collection.
Oh yeah.
Those are both day ones.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna get the Cowabunga. I'm on the fence. I kind of want it. Shredder's Revenge for sure. The Cowabunga, it's like it's cool, but again, like after, you know, an hour or two, I'm like, will I ever actually want to play it after that? I don't know.
Did they announce a price? I don't think so. Right?
I'm not sure. No.
I don't know. For me, you know, on one hand, I've bought in some collections. Like I bought the Contra collection for like $4, and I've literally played it for 30 seconds. So sometimes I know what you mean, but in this case, like Turtles in Time alone to be accessible in a collection for the rest of my life is worth it.
True, yeah. To even that's the one thing is like to have Turtles in Times, or even to
Tournament
experience
fighter.
to experience the different kinds of tournament fighters too. I'm really curious about how the three different ones are different.
Yeah, I mean the other thing to keep in mind though with that one is it'll probably get on some serious sales this year as well.
Yeah,
And like I'm probably gonna pick up that Aladdin and Lion King game at some point because just to have those classics in my collection because I grew up with those, right? So sometimes it's almost like this weird like I just want to be able to play it someday kind of
yeah,
feeling, you know?
yeah. Like for me, just to go back about games we're going to buy, there are other games even because we're talking about games being on sale or cheap. Like there are games from the past year that I still want to buy that are now $40 as opposed to 90. So those might be the games I'm going to buy next. You know?
Like what?
Like Tales of Arise or the Neo Collection or even Tony Hawk. Like I want to play Tony Hawk 1 and 2, but it's still high in price. And
I think it'll come to Game Pass because Microsoft bought Activision, so it's only a matter of time, right?
Yeah, exactly. And even like Alan Wake Remastered, like I want to try that game, and there's a PS5 version of it. I did not know that.
It's not. I don't know that game. It's a 360 game for one. So it's old. It's over to 12, 13 years old, and even then it wasn't like amazing. It was like an 8.
Okay.
I think it was one of those games that Microsoft and Xbox tried to champion as like their big, competitor to Sony's third-person shooter, which it wasn't. But I've heard that Tales of Arise, even though it got like favorable reviews, that it's like not that good.
I know, but I agree. That's why I'm waiting for it to be super cheap. I just have an itch to play a Tales of game, and I really liked the demo that I played of it. And if the price is right, it's just something to play. But yeah, right now I already have games that I have a few games still in my backlog to play.
Yeah, I also with Triangle Strategy, that got what like 83 on Metacritic. But from the impressions I've read, like people who played the demo and couldn't get through the demo because of the story and this and that, like it's not a game for them. But people who have gotten to the end or gotten really into that game absolutely love it. And they're like this game should have gotten mid-9s reviews. And just apparently like it's a long introduction story, but when you get into it, like the decisions you make that impact the story are like really really interesting.
Yeah. Apparently, like it's like it really is kind of one of those gray stories where you can see both perspectives, and you do feel in the position of like almost being a king or being a lord and having to make these like hard decisions about what happens to like the people and the parties around you. And apparently, the fights are really interesting because there's not that many of them. Not that there's too few or whatever, but people said it adds a lot of weight and seriousness to the fights because you have an hour of cutscenes and then you have an hour fight, and it's just one fight, but it's an hour long, and it's like not these kind of Fire Emblem quick next battle. It's like, oh no, like this is a huge defining moment of like you're about to assassinate a lord and like change the history of that land forever, and it's like there's a lot of kind of heaviness to it, which I'm really excited to play it.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people probably went into it thinking it was like a Final Fantasy Tactics or Fire Emblem kind of strategy game, where it almost seems to be almost like a visual novel mixed with a strategy RPG.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't even know visual novel because those are very linear in some ways.
Yeah.
Where this I find it almost is like a political strategy, like almost like a. What's the word when you like politicians discuss, like it's a kind of a very like that kind of game as opposed to a strategy RPG. But apparently even the fighting is really really good, and like every character has these really unique moves that entirely change the fight, where in Fire Emblem all your characters, they kind of have an attack based on their range and just like a damage, where this game is like, oh no, like you can freeze the water to drive the enemies down a certain alleyway in the town, and then you can corner them with your archers on the roofs of those alleyways. Like there's a lot of kind of interesting strategies to the fights.
Yeah, and the graphics look really. I love the graphical style. So
yeah, I mean, I played the demo, and I don't know if you downloaded it. It is a little bit fuzzy. Like it's not as crisp as you'd probably as Octopath even.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, it's not as crisp as I would want those HD pixels to be.
Well, interestingly, I think they announced like within a week or two, it sold 900,000 copies.
I think it said shipped, but yeah.
Shipped. So it sounds like this is going to do better than Bravely Default 2, which was like, Nintendo always is kind of this RPG exclusive every Q1. And it seems like Triangle Strategy is on route to being another success for them. So I'm happy that this 2D HD style is taking off. And that game, do you remember that game announced called Live Alive?
Yes, but let me just Google it.
Yeah,
Keep talking.
Nintendo announced it during their like as a Square exclusive or timed exclusive for Switch. That was announced at the last Direct.
Oh,
And-
that's right. Is this the SRPG?
yeah, but it's like 5 game stories in one or overlapping, something like that.
Yeah. Sorry, this is like almost like a Chrono Trigger kind of style game.
Yeah, so I think when it first announced, I mean, for you and me, we were like, oh, what is this? Silly name. But like, since then, I've realized that no, this is actually like kind of like another Octopath or Triangle Strategy in its quality and its style. And it's like, it's not like a little write-off or a remake. It's actually like, well, it is a remake, but it's like, apparently people think it's going to do well and be successul. And people who
looks awesome.
are fans of the original are like, oh yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so...
Yeah. This game looks awesome. Like it's definitely on my radar.
Yeah, so I'd be interested if you do get Triangle Strategy, what you think. But I think that Live Alive might kind of take the breath from under its wings for this year's 2D HD games.
When does Live Alive come out? Is there a
It's like
release
July
date?
or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, like this in April we've got Switch Sports. In May I don't know what we have, and then in June we've got the new Fire Emblem Three Hopes and Mario Strikers, and then July is this.
We have a pretty nice lineup.
Yeah, and I'm predicting that Splatoon hits probably in August, and then Xenoblade in September, and then fall is probably going to be Pokemon and Bayonetta 3. No Breath of the Wild.
Did Splatoon 3 have a release date or no?
Summer.
Okay, just summer. Okay.
And I think the fact that Xenoblade's coming out in September means that they would not put Splatoon in September as well.
No, yeah, I think it'll be July or August.
Yeah, and at this point, I feel like if it's going to be July, they'd have to announce that prior to E3.
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't wait till
Do you think
E3.
there's going to be another direct before E3 showcase?
No. I think if anything, there'll be maybe some Twitter announcements in April and May or something, and maybe if depending on what happens in Russia, they'll re-announce the Advance Wars release date, and I don't know, but I don't think so. I think the most we would see is like a direct focusing on Live Alive or a direct focusing on Splatoon. Or even Mario Strikers, like it's Mario Strikers 15-minute direct.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, if Splatoon's coming in July, they'll be like, hey, they dropped the release date. Like maybe they'll come out and say Splatoon 3 is coming July this and tomorrow, and we're going to show the thing, this week, the direct, and then E3 will come and they'll give it a little trailer, a little spotlight, but focus on other things.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, so I'm still excited for E3.
Yeah. Me too.
Mostly for Metroid Prime 4.
To summarize the last 20 minutes of talk, excited for E3.
Yeah, and I'm excited for Christmas. So anyways, Derek, what have you been playing?
Yeah, so 3 games to kind of mention. I finished Elden Ring.
Yeah, you beat it. Try not to spoil anything for me.
I won't, but I will say that it's probably in my top 10 favorite games of all time.
Did you 100% the whole game?
I got the platinum trophy. I didn't 100% the whole game. Like I didn't fight every boss. 'Cause I'm sure I missed dungeons and some nighttime bosses.
Mm-hmm.
But I got every trophy, every meaningful boss. I got every legendary weapon, spell, every legendary item. So I got the platinum. Some of the bosses there are a few bosses that are ridiculously hard, and those are some of my favorite bosses of all time from games. But they're totally optional. I would say you'll be fine, especially if you use summons and stuff. You can probably beat the whole game, no problem. Mm-hmm. Maybe the last boss will be a challenge.
I do think for me, at some point in the game, I'm gonna look up how to farm runes and just get OP and because I've heard some of those end bosses are just not fun. And I heard there's one where they just put 2 bosses at you at the same time, and you have to use summons or be amazing. And I didn't use
summons. I didn't use spells for the entire game.
Oh, you're just pure hand to hand, eh?
And I'm not even a good hand to hand. I use the long sword. Like other people use like legendary swords and they know what they're doing. I just use a basic sword.
Okay.
That's just so you'll be fine if you use a summon or like I wouldn't even say look up the best spot to farm. What I would do is if you really got stuck, you should look up or ask someone a strategy or ask me. look up where to find the best summon in the game. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
look up where to find the best sword. Don't worry about like getting 8 million runes. That can be really like time consuming and boring. Where all you needed was just a really good summon.
Well, I found a really good summon. I can't remember where I got it, but it's like a dual sword holding knight that I can summon, but I don't have enough. My stats aren't high enough to use them yet. So I've now actually kind of changed some of my strategy to focus on upgrading my magic and long distance spells.
Nice.
Because I feel like that's going to be like a lot of times now, like long distance has saved my freaking ass. So I'm just kind of in that zone, you know?
Yeah, so it kind of depends how you want to play. But yeah, if you ever get stuck, just ask me. Like, the game is not, especially if you use all the tools, it's really not that hard, despite what people say. Like, you'll be fine. So that's the first game. So I beat that a couple days ago on like Wednesday, and then I picked up Returnal to play the DLC.
Yeah, I saw you're ranked 56 in the whole world.
Yeah, so so the tower is in endless mode, and you get a score and a multiplier and whatever. And last night I started a run, and I like somehow just got a weapon that I really clicked with. And a lot of people don't like this weapon, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna try it. It has like all the upgrades that I want, and I just like steamrolled for like 2 more hours, and I got like 36 million score. And
did you take pictures of this and everything, like pictures of your?
I screenshotted my 56 at a global rank. I checked this morning. I was like 62. I'm betting I'll settle down in the hundreds. But I mean, like they're like when my first run, I got like 6 million score, and I was like in the thousands. So it's not like no one's playing this game. So I actually did. I did really good.
You should you're almost. With a rank of 56, you almost should be live streaming and like recording your session. Like
I know, yeah. I almost, and I feel like I could have gone further. I just switched guns near the end and I died. I should have stuck with the gun that I liked. But
you know what? By the way, if you ever did want to get into it, where I don't think doing live streams are probably your thing, because that's a whole other thing.
Just get a capture card,
or not even a capture card. But I know I can advise you on like a really great device. I have it, like a little monitor that you can go HDMI in, HDMI out. You can record it onto an SD card, and you can record like hours and hours and hours, and then go back and kind of edit the best parts. If you ever did want to go down that road.
Yeah, okay, that sounds kind of interesting. I mean, I've thought about that before, because even games like, you know, like Let's Play, like I feel like I can make funny videos or commentary. Like, I don't know, we'll see.
Well, on Switch, for example, like every time I get like a crazy Mario Kart finish or Metroid Avoid the Emmy, like I record it. So I have all these captures now, and I'm kind of like, well, I wish the captures were at full frame rate, but also I wish I could. I mean, I could, but I mean, like, I should put these together into a compilation. And maybe with being 56 in the world, you probably have some amazing moments there that you could share.
Yeah. Or I was thinking even because the hardest boss in the From game, like everyone's complaining about, and I beat her with a longsword, and I uploaded my video. I saved that video and I uploaded it to YouTube, and within an hour it had like 100 views. So I was like, oh, like maybe I actually should have like promoted this and actually like. I was thinking, even if I trimmed it and showed like how I dodged every move, like how I beat every single move that the boss does, like as a tutorial, I'm sure I'd get like tens of thousands of views.
I mean, it'd be so easy for you, right? You record it, you get the footage, you do a little voiceover certain segments. You really could. I mean, because for you, it's more about the skill. Like for me, I don't have the game skill to be able to impress anybody, but for you, you actually do. So maybe you should think about it.
Yeah, I should think about that. That's a good idea, actually. Maybe I will look into that. But yeah, so that back to what I've been playing. So that's the first Returnal. I beat the DLC. I loved it. Probably going to be my top 10 game of the year, to be totally honest.
It's all top 10, 1 to 10.
No, sorry, for game of the year, it'll be in my top 10. Returnal, yeah.
Oh, but not number 1.
No, Elden Ring is probably going to be my number 1.
Are we gonna count DLC as top 10 material? Like that's DLC.
You can for game of the. I did last year. I did Echoes of the Eye for Outer Wilds.
But that was a bit different because that was such a significant, huge chunk. Like, can I put Mario Kart 8 on my top 10 because I love the cups?
I think so.
Okay, fair enough.
If it's new content, yeah, for sure.
Fair.
I might play Mario Kart 8, honestly. So yeah. Anyways, that, and then just today after I finished Returnal, I picked up Horizon for about an hour, and I'm excited to get back into it. But that first hour was like really jarring, because I just played two of the best controlled, nicest games, best open world games, like Elden Ring and Returnal, to play those back to back in the past week, and then go to Horizon. Horizon's fantastic, don't get me wrong, but just like when I played Horizon after Breath of the Wild, I feel stuck to the ground. I feel like clinging to the walls, very glued, and it feels like the controls don't feel as responsive or fluid. It feels kind of like, you're jumping to that next grip where, Returnal and Elden Ring, they just the gameplay is so smooth and feels so good. Where Horizon will feel good once I get the controls back and whatever, but it just you can just tell that it doesn't feel quite as masterpiece quality. It's
the funny thing is that Elden Ring almost has zero platforming, and the platforming that's there is kind of awful in a way.
Oh, totally. But I just mean the actual.
That's not the focus. Yeah, the focus is on the combat and the depth of the character customization.
Like the best example I could give is like when you roll through tables and stuff in Elden Ring, like you mentioned last podcast.
Yeah.
And it just you just feel like you can kind of go through stuff and like you're just kind of in the world, where Horizon feels like the world is like a frozen block in time, and you kind of have to just like move your character throughout this frozen landscape.
Yeah, like you're seeing the wireframe structure of the world.
Exactly. And again, I after a couple of hours and once I forget the other games, I'm sure I'll get back into it. But it was a little jarring to play these games right and then going right into Horizon.
Interesting. Yeah. So you think Horizon will end up on your top 10, or you think it's kind of just a decent sequel and that's it?
I mean, I have to play more of it. Right now, it's obviously in my top 10 right now. It really depends on how many games I'll be playing.
True.
But yeah, I mean, when I played it before Elden Ring, I really did like it. So I think I just need to get back into it, because I've only played it for an hour, and that's after 120 hours of Elden Ring and Returnal. So.
Yeah, I do. The one thing, I saw a little gameplay clip of it online, and it just went to the map, and the map was full of icons, and something that made me just feel sick to my stomach to look at that. Like, literally, I felt ill. And it's just like, I don't want to do that.
I had the same feeling today when I opened the map, and I'm like, some of them are green, some of them are white, some of them are question marks, and I'm like, oh my god, like Elden Ring is just so nice in that sense, where it's like you just kind of, you don't really have a place to go, so you just kind of go and do what feels cool and awesome, and you Elden Ring, like, you have a direction, and then you also have no direction. Where this game is like you have every direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There has... is that all you've been playing? I just want to ask you a couple questions.
Yeah, those are the three games. Yep.
So with regards to Elden Ring, I have read online there's been a little bit of... how like when an amazing game comes out and everyone loves it for like the first 2 weeks, and then there's like the naysayers will come out of the crawling,
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I've heard you've gotten further and you have more experience with the Soul series, but I've heard some kind of naysaying about the game having not the best bosses in the Soul series. And a lot of the bosses apparently are repeated from other Souls games, which to me is fine because I haven't played them, so they're all new to me.
So as far as repeated from other Souls games, I have not. I don't remember I've seen any of those. But a lot of the bosses are repeated in this game.
Okay.
So you might fight a boss in the one area, and you might fight it 2 or 3 times, and then also in one of the small little caves. So those bosses don't really interest me. Like, I don't really even consider them memorable bosses. I would say like Dark Souls 3 has the best quantity and quality of bosses, but there are probably 5 bosses in this game that I would say are like really, 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 really awesome. And there's another 5 or 7 that are like challenging and pretty good. But yeah, the bosses aren't bad. I would just say that the amount of great bosses in this game are pretty few.
Okay.
But again, the other thing is like I've also played some of the bosses that were kind of easy but cool and spectacles, like cool visuals and stuff. I've seen those kind of bosses before in Dark Souls where you haven't. So like you'll fight a boss where like won't necessarily be hard. But you'll find like this is wicked and cool.
Well, I fought the first area dragon in the first pond there in Lingard.
Yeah.
Limgrave? What's it called?
Limgrave, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's dragons all over that game. So after like the 4th dragon, it's whatever.
I know, but it was funny because my friend came over a few weeks ago when it first came out, and he just went right to the dragon, was getting wrecked over and over and over again. So I'm like, well, I'm going to avoid that because an NPC told me to avoid it. But now that I'm more powerful, I went back and I wrecked the dragon, and even though it was like rather easy and I beat it on my first try, it was just so awesome, right? It was just like seeing the flames go everywhere, and it was just like such an awesome experience to fight that
Yeah.
dragon, you know?
Yeah, like you'll come across some really cool spectacle bosses, and like there are some bosses that I really liked in playing, but I beat them my first try and it was easy. And those are the bosses that I don't really care for too much anymore because I played so many From games.
Yeah.
Where for you, it's like, those things are going to feel awesome regardless of how easy or hard they are because you're not the same From player that I am.
Yeah. Okay. Another question though is this by far your favorite Souls game?
Yeah, I would put this. I'd have to sit on it for a bit. I don't always like to jump so quickly. I would say it's number one right now. I would say Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 are close behind it. I would say Bloodborne's probably number two.
I thought Sekiro would be higher.
Oh no, Sekiro is probably bottom two.
Oh wow.
I really liked Sekiro, but I found it very small in scope, and I didn't love the bosses in that game. I'm not a big samurai person to begin with. That's not really what interests me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
so that game was. Yeah.
I was gonna say, where does From Software go from here?
Yeah, I've been talking about this with my friend Brandon, and we first discussed DLC possibilities and like some bosses or whatever, and then we discussed what is the next From game gonna be, and he said they're probably already working on Elden Ring 2 because the success of this game means like they can't really go back.
Go back to to a non-open world? You mean?
Yeah, non-open world, and I don't necessarily agree. I could see them. I don't want to say Bloodborne 2 because I don't necessarily know if Bloodborne is the IP that they'll do.
I think Sony would have to. So that's a Sony.
That's what I mean. That's why I don't think with Bloodborne. But I would love to see them do a game of this kind of scope, but not medieval fantasy. Like
sci-fi even would be cool.
Yeah, maybe sci-fi. I think I like it when they do a bit more of there's not guns and lasers. I think swords and even arrows and whatever are cool, but it's not medieval fantasy. Like I think that gothic horror of Bloodborne is awesome. So even if they made a different game with a different name but the same kind of feel, would be freaking cool to me. But yeah, I don't really know. My dream game would be Bloodborne 2 with the same scope of Elden Ring. That'd be my dream game. But I'd be happy with Elden Ring 2, even Dark Souls 4, like any of those kind of like.
I feel like Brandon's probably on the money on that one because for one, Namco published Elden Ring and they published the Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, so they have a precedent for sequels.
Yeah.
And it just seems kind of obvious to say, hey, you sold 12 million copies in a week. This game's going to sell 20, 30 million copies.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was funny when I was in Las Vegas a week ago. Huge video billboard for Elden Ring.
Yeah, it's funny. Even my non-gaming friends, or like my friends that don't play as much games, are like hearing about this game and wanting to play it.
Yeah, and I actually think a lot of those kind of casual, like I was telling my friend who likes the Lego games, like, oh man, Elden Ring is so awesome, but I mean, he couldn't even beat Metroid Dread. He had to give up on that. I don't think he'd make it very far in Elden Ring before jumping off.
Yeah, see, it's funny because I actually find this game easier than Metroid Dread in a lot of ways.
Wow. I've already died more times in Elden Ring than I probably died in all Metroids combined.
I know, but I gotta say, like, the point of the game is different. Like, it's not the difficulty, it's the mentality. People go in and they go, oh, I died 4 times, this game sucks. Where, the whole point of this game is to die and to go and explore and to level up, and then eventually that boss is a joke. Like, where Metroid, if you can't beat that final boss, or you can't beat, Kraid, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, you're stuck. Like, that's what Kraid is.
I mean, you can look for more energy tanks. Like,
sure, but I mean, at some point, you just, like, that final boss, I had almost every upgrade, and I still had to, like, really focus to beat that Raven, whatever his boss was.
Yeah.
Where this game is kind of like, if you struggle on that first boss, you just go and level and find new items and do whatever you want for, like, a dozen hours, and then come back, and you'll school him. So I just don't think it's necessarily a harder game. I just think people have to get over the mentality of, well, if I'm not beating a boss on the first or second try, this game is too hard. It's like, well, no. It's like the whole point of the game is to die more than once.
But I mean, it is one of those games though where you can go and explore 10 different areas, but 9 of those 10 areas will be really hard.
Yeah, again, the whole point of the game is to die. Like,
Yeah,
that's why the whole
yeah, and I gotta say, like, as much as I'd love to run through the game being OP and destroying everything, I feel like when I finally do get to that place, like later in the game, it's gonna feel so rewarding to have gotten there. Because
yeah.
even now, going back to original areas and demolishing guys, it's like, wow, like not only have I gotten more skilled at the game, but I also am more powerful and I feel like it. Where
Totally.
but like I like playing this game and kind of like having that sense of fear around every corner and like almost thinking like, no, I really could die and there is a cost to dying because I'm going to lose these runes. So I'm like, yeah, totally.
Like wait till you're like, you have 80,000 runes and you're in a place and you're like, damn, like I don't know where the next checkpoint is, and I went down a path that I can't go back to the old checkpoint, and you just kind of stuck. And you're just kind of like, damn, like how do I? And you're out of healing flasks, and you see an enemy that's a big enemy up ahead, and you're like, damn, I don't know if I can take this guy. Like, how do I get around this? So that feeling is awesome. And the other feeling in Elden Rings or from games that I love is, I don't know if you felt it, but when you fight a boss and you're like, you've died 6, 10, 20 times and you're frustrated as hell, and then you actually beat them, you change a weapon or strategy and you beat them, that feeling of like triumph there's very few games you get that from.
Yeah, I mean, I think I asked you. There's an area at the very beginning. If you go back and use one of your keys, you can go to that like area that like you have to avoid that rolling spiky insta kill thing.
Yeah, the chariot. Yeah,
and then you get to the bottom and you find another Erd tree, like a dilapidated Erd tree boss. I can't remember what they're called. And that took me, and the thing is, I'm like, okay, it took me a long time to get down here because I basically had to like almost cheese the roller thing so it got stuck around the corner to get past that one spot. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's like the one spot where like there's you have to run in the middle and you can fall off both sides. And I'm like, I like literally took off all my armor and ran as fast as I could to get.
You can fall off onto a ledge, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if you look down, there's a ledge you can fall off. There's like a whole other area in that level.
Oh, wow. Is it worth exploring?
I mean, there's some more items down there if you want to go exploring, sure.
Well, it's just funny. I mean, I get to the bottom. I'm like, I have to beat this guy at where I'm at. And I'm trying everything, right? I'm summoning, changing my weapons, changing my loadout. And I finally did it. And it felt great. But then I get some items and I'm like, well, I don't even know what this item is for. Like, I think I got a golden seed. So that's pretty good. But,
yeah.
So, yeah.
But you should actually, now that I think about it, you go back and explore that place. I think there is a good amulet there.
So you fall down. Okay, I'll look for it.
So yeah, like that little narrow path where there's holes on both sides. Look down and see where you can. There's a ledge below that you can fall onto.
Okay, I will go there. Last question about Elden Ring, because I saw it posted on Reset Era. Breath of the Wild versus Elden Ring. Which one has the better? Which one's the better game? Which one's the better open world? And which one will have more of a lasting impression on the industry? What do you think?
I think they're completely different, and I think they're both iconic for totally different ways. I think personally, I will enjoy Elden Ring more, even though Breath of the Wild, again, I love. Not my favorite Zelda game, but I do love it. What I would say is the starkest difference is Elden Ring, a lot of their sense of discovery and sense of kind of world building and kind of this huge, massive, sprawling labyrinth of like there's always more. Like again, you're not anywhere. You're like maybe 10% into the game, but my friend, he's further than you, and I keep telling him like, man, there's more than you think. There's more than you think. He's like, no, I think I've seen like kind of the edges of the map. I'm like, no, there's more. And then like he texted me a couple days ago. He's like, damn, dude, like this game is way bigger than I thought. Like there's just it's in a good way. It never feels like, oh damn, this game is like, like Horizon. It's like, oh, this checklist and it's endless. It's such a grind. This game's like, damn, like there's even more secrets and like look at this huge castle I just found underground. So I would give that to Elden Ring. But, the one thing that I think is phenomenal that Breath of the Wild did that really no game has captured for me since is the climbing.
Yeah.
The fact that you can literally go anywhere if you have the stamina, and you can just jump from anywhere. Where, in Elden Ring, for example, you're looking down. Like there's no way for me to get down that cliff. Even with the horse, I have to usually navigate a long path around.
Yeah.
Where Breath of the Wild is like, no, any height I can jump from in any placed down, I can climb up. So that feeling, I don't know if it has ever been replicated in any game.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess yeah. In Elden Ring, there really doesn't have that with exploring. Like it's really fun to explore, but you're right. Like for different reasons, because you're gonna find enemies or even power ups that like you can't get anywhere else, and can lead to a totally unique build.
Or these huge areas is what I really like.
Yeah, where with Breath of the Wild, I mean, you'd find kind of like a secret cave, and you'd be like, oh, but there's another shrine. So if another one of these four, I get a heart piece. Like it's not as rewarding in that sense. Like there are a few things, but then again, yeah, I agree that like there's times in Elden Ring where I'll see a castle, and like my Zelda Breath of the Wild instinct is kind of like all I need to do is go in that direction and find the right rock area to climb up and the right area to rest, and like I can do it.
Yeah.
And even I know in Breath of the Wild there are areas where like the enemies, like some of those flying guardian guys, like you actually had to be a little bit stealthy and strategic how you got through that area. Where Elden Ring is seems like the combat focus, it's less focused on the exploration discovery and more focused on the combat discovery, if that makes any sense.
Sort of, yeah.
Like your discovery is in finding a cave and seeing what's down there. It's not so much of like, oh, there's a mountain in the distance, I'm going to ride there and get to the top of it and see if there's something there.
I think both games have that kind of mountain in the distance you want to get to, where I find the way you get there is really awesome in Zelda, and I find the thing that is there is really awesome in Elden Ring.
Good, yeah, that's a better way to put it. Like the journeys may be more fun in Zelda, but Breath of the Wild, but what actually is at the end of the journey is more interesting and also has more to it, right? Like you're leading into these crazy caves.
Yeah.
I do think when it comes to Breath of the Wild 2 and what it takes from Elden Ring is I hope it takes like just the number of small individualized caves and ruins and temples where it's not so much like, okay, here's your generic, shrine and here's your 5 temples, but like, no, here's a random cave that only 1 in 10 people will find, and at the bottom is some unique enemy with some really weird thing, and you're going to get a spell or a weapon that you would never have gotten otherwise.
That's why I know they probably aren't with Breath of the Wild 2. That's why I hope they bring items back into Zelda. That's what I loved about Elden Ring. Even though I didn't use 90% of the items, it's like, oh, I found a really wicked spell. This spell looks awesome. I like finding things that, like you said, you can't find anywhere else. Where, Zelda traditionally and still has found you find heart pieces. It gets a little bit samey, or you find 100 rupees or something, where it would be awesome if, for example, like the hook shot, you could beat the whole game without the hook shot, right? But if you went into a certain area, you found the hook shot and it just made traversal way cooler, more interesting. Or maybe you do need it for a boss, but it doesn't tell you where it is. You just
or maybe it just makes a boss, like let's say there's a boss that has a shield in the front that you can pull off with the hook shot, and if you don't have the hook shot, you have to kill him a whole different way.
Yeah, but or maybe you do need the hook shot to, let's say, get into a dungeon, but instead of it like someone saying, hey, it's here on this map, it'd be cool if you went to a town and someone's like, hey, like go check the eastern mountains, there might be something that helps you get into the boss's king castle. And it's like, you don't know what it is, it doesn't mark it on your map, but now you just have an idea of where to go and explore.
Yeah, totally. No, I'd love that. I mean, I do wonder how they're going to solve the weapon dilemma with Breath of the Wild, because I know a lot. I mean, I appreciated what the first Breath of the Wild did with the weapon degradation and, having to kind of be strategic when and where, like almost like an RPG. But I don't know if I want to do that again. Like I almost want them to kind of rethink the way the weapons work in Breath of the Wild too.
I would love if they did it almost like Elden Ring. Not so many, but even if they had, 10 different swords and each one had a different thing, and then, different bows and different arrows, and just you got a collection, unless you could only carry 3 out of your stash at a time. And they didn't have degradation, or maybe they had to like get them sharpened again or something. I don't know. I don't like that you lose the weapon. Like, I didn't like that even the legendary weapons that you got from each animal shrine in Breath of the Wild, they had degradation. They could be destroyed, and you had to go back to the town to get them a second time.
Yeah.
So they never ran out, but it was kind of like, oh dang, like why? Like I just want to use this weapon.
It also kind of doesn't really make any sense to be like, yeah, this metal sword. After I've hit someone 12 times will disappear. It's like,
Yeah,
that's
or-
not really, like, that's not how that swords work.
Or even like, you know, again, the sacred weapons. Like the Master Sword can't break, right? You recharge
It
over
breaks
time.
and it charges, yeah.
Like, why aren't the other weapons like that? Like, I don't know, or at least, you know, pick a few that are like that and other weapons that are generic that break.
I think taking a little bit of the Monster Hunter approach where it gets dull and it gets weaker. So like, even like, let's say every weapon had a bar, and as you used it, the bar got lower, so the damage got less strong. And let's say even like you get a secret sword, and when the sword has 2/3 or higher, it has like a magical fire slash. But when it gets below that, you lose the fire slash and it's a regular sword. And like, kind of an interesting dynamic that way would be
That'd be cool.
really cool. Yeah. So we'll see though. I'm like really excited about seeing what Breath of the Wild 2 does, because it's you know, that's like the next big step in open world games. It seems like, you know, it's been Breath of the Wild 1, Elden Ring, and now we're just waiting for that. Like, what could the next step be? But there's no way to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what have you been playing?
Well, I've already kind of talked about Elden Ring and Kirby, nothing else.
Okay.
And
good.
Shredders. So not much. But this has been a pretty long podcast already. We're just about 2
Yeah, I was
hours
gonna say,
in.
are we gonna wrap this up? So
Yeah, maybe just another 2 hours of talking and we'll wrap it. Well, anyways, this has been a great chat.
yeah, it's a good one.
If you listeners, again, if you're there, let us know what you think. Have you been playing Elden Ring? Have you been playing Kirby? Let us know.
Yes, please do. Let us know you're alive.
Yes, let us know you're real. And Derek, I guess we will talk in a couple weeks and
Yeah,
do
enjoy your trip.
We'll do. You too.
Okay.
All right.
See you later.
Cheers.